when you're Jack Buck's kid. It was great. I wouldn't want it any other way, but I was aware that people were watching, and I wasn't the kid getting arrested in high school and, ending up in the paper for, whatever it would be. I just wanted to be my dad. And I think the beauty of it is, and there are people in this room, I'm sure, that have a parent that they emulate. He was my best friend. And I didn't ever want to be, I didn't want to be a fireman, a police officer, a lawyer, a doctor. I just wanted to be Jack Buck.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of SBJ's On Stage. I'm your host, Taylor Bloom. Today's episode takes us to SBJ's National Sports Forum in St. Louis, where Joe Buck, play-by-play announcer at ESPN and one of the most recognized voices in America, sat down with Eric Stisser, VP of Corporate Sponsorship for the St. Louis Blues, for a fireside chat on broadcasting, storytelling, and life behind the microphone. Recorded on Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, this conversation is a love letter to St. Louis and explores Buck's path through sports media, the discipline behind his preparation, and what it takes to stay sharp and authentic while calling some of the biggest events in sports. It's a thoughtful and entertaining look at the craft of play-by-play from one of the most established voices in the business. Let's go on stage.
Oh, I hope I'm entertaining. I know you guys are tired. You probably have headaches. Here we are again in this conference room sitting next to who knows who. I'm honored to be here. As Ron said, I love my city. I'm glad you guys are here. We're flattered that you're here, and so it means a lot. And when Eric asked, I first wondered how he got my number, but I said yes. And now here we are, and we're going to take questions at the end from the audience. So wherever you guys want to go with this, that's great. But Eric has prepared for this for the last month and a half, and he has questions that are just going to pry me open, like Roy Firestone meets Oprah meets I don't know who.
I'm going to call you Chris Evert.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
These kids are too young. They don't even know that.
We're old now. Anyway, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, first of all, thank you for coming to St. Louis. I know Ron and Abe and others have said a lot of nice things about me, but this has been a total team effort, from Purina Enterprise and Stiefel to being our presenting partners, to the entire steering committee, to a lot of people in St. Louis that made this happen. So I know they're giving me a lot of accolades, but it was a total team effort. I want to make sure you guys know that. Well, first of all, Joe,
yes.
At least your commute was really short, and I got you a cup of coffee, so we're off to a good start.
There's no doubt there's going to be a ticket on my car outside Union Station.
Me too.
Can I expense that somehow?
We'll get it fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So most of you know Joe Buck as the 24-time World Series announcer, the 22-time MLB All-Star Game announcer, 6 Super Bowls, 5 U.S. Opens, golf that is, 8 sports Emmys, the only father-son duo to both call Super Bowls, and I think most importantly is Joe was just named a 2026 winner of the Ford Frick Baseball Hall of Fame. He will go in along with his father, so how about that?
Thank you. Thank you. I have incredible imposter syndrome. I feel like I am a lucky nepotite. I was very fortunate that I am Jack and Carol Buck's son. I was smart enough as a kid to pay attention right down the street at Busch Stadium, where night after night I would do a game into a tape recorder, and we would pop the tape out, and my dad and I would listen to it in his Lincoln Mark 5, 6, 7 town car, whatever the different, the evolution of the Lincoln car series was. We would listen to it on the way home. I'd work on things the next day, and I kept doing it. So clearly I was a lonely, bored kid who didn't have any friends, but I was very lucky to have this master's class every night of my life, and I just tried to take advantage of it.
But before all that, I go way back with Joe to grade school, and Joe was the 1979 Athlete of the Year at Rossman Elementary, dominating the playground. dodgeball smoking me in the face, clearing out the boards underneath. But the 1979 athlete.
This is payback, clearly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is what that got me. That was the one athletic achievement of my life. And then I decided I would just talk about athletes for the rest of time.
And as they say, he was a force. We could only hope to contain him. But seriously, we do go way back. Our moms were good friends, and it's been fun to follow each other's careers. And he's done such a great job.
I've not followed your career.
No, you haven't. No. Although he may have asked me for Stanley Cup tickets,
Yeah.
so that's following it a little bit.
Yeah.
So this morning we're going to learn a little bit about Joe the person, his background, growing up here, his career path, some of his other sports and interests and hobbies. So Joe, first of all, there's some youngsters in the room that don't know a lot about your father, but you guys, Jack Buck was one of the greats of all time. So you're growing up in St. Louis with some really great Cardinal teams. Actually, later in life, they were not great in the 70s and 80s, but just talk about what it was like being Jack Buck's son.
Yeah, well, in a town this size, it was, I was aware as a little kid that eyes were on us. My dad was a people person, so whenever we were at, I don't know if you guys have ventured to the Hill, but all of our big family dinners were at Canetto's. Many times we would have an empty chair, and he would pull the chair out for whoever came up and started talking to us. So I didn't get to see my dad a lot, but when I did, we got to share our family dinners with Roger from Paducah, who met my dad 10 years earlier. He just was that guy that wanted to be around people. And, it is a small town. It's a big, small town. And when you're Jack Buck's kid, it was great. I wouldn't want it any other way, but I was aware that people were watching, and I wasn't the kid getting arrested in high school and, ending up in the paper for, whatever it would be. I just wanted to be my dad. And I think the beauty of it is, and there are people in this room, I'm sure, that have a parent that they emulate. He was my best friend, and I didn't ever want to be, I didn't want to be a fireman, a police officer, a lawyer, a doctor. I just wanted to be Jack Buck. And as I've thought about it now that I'm an older person, 56 years old, I realized the best gift he gave me was that he let me be in the room with him. And I knew that if I was going to sit in his office and watch him do an interview on his telephone for KMOX or CBS National Radio or whatever, I couldn't be the typical 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid making noise. I had to be quiet, and I paid attention, and thankfully he wanted me to be with him. So it was a great way to grow up. It's a great city. I'm very proud of it, as I said before, but the Cardinals stunk in the 70s, and we're good when Whitey showed up in the 80s, and now we're in the mid-2020s, and we're going to stink again.
So speaking of that, 82, 85, 87, 06, 11, some great Cardinal teams. As a kid, who were some players that really took you under their wing or befriended you both on and off the field?
I like the ones that were just nice to me. Obviously Ozzie Smith was my all-time favorite. My dad's all-time favorite was Bob Gibson. But it was the guys that took a liking to me, being in the dugout, being in the clubhouse, being in the outfield shagging balls during batting practice, being the bat boy. It was the guy that handed me Skol when I was 10, and I put it in my lip trying to be cool, and I threw up and then ran out to home plate zigzagging my way to pick up a bat. But guys that nobody in this room would even remember, guys like Tony Scott and Dave Rader and Dave LaPointe, who was a heavy-set left-handed pitcher, and I was a heavy-set right-handed child, and he liked to kind of rough me up a little bit on the bench. I do remember, he'd see me and he'd kind of grab me and punch me, and one time he caught me on the arm. I was 10, 11, and it hurt. And I was trying to hold it in, and a slow tear just started trickling down my cheek. And I think he was like, oh, shit, I just hit Jack Buck's kid. So he walked me up to the clubhouse. He's like Jack, I'm sorry. I was playing around with Joe, and I punched him, and I think I heard he's like, good, that'll teach him something. So I had access, and they had access to me, obviously, and I was lucky to be behind the curtain, so to speak.
So Joe's being humble. He was a pretty good high school pitcher, and Machuk went to Indiana University. I think you might have played there a little bit.
I played there for one day.
One day.
Yes.
Okay. And then.
Home of the national champion Indiana Hoosiers.
Yes. I believe you took your daughter to that national title game.
I did. My wife, my daughter, her husband. Yes, I've got a daughter who's married, and I've got 7-year-old twins at home.
Yeah.
So
do that math.
The math sucks. I do math every day. I'm like, when my boys are at a normal age to be married, they're 30, I'm not going to be.
Parents' weekend, you might be being pushed around.
Oh, yeah, I will be. I will have an oxygen tank. I'll be like, oh, Grandpa's here. And no, that's Dad. That's the guy paying the bill.
So, Joe, tail end of college,
yeah,
you get tapped on the shoulder to go to Louisville.
Yes.
And start broadcasting AAA baseball. Talk about that path.
Yeah, I left Indiana. So anybody who clapped who actually graduated from Indiana, congratulations. I didn't. I left early. I was presented with this conundrum. Do I stay in Indiana and hope to someday get a broadcasting job in baseball, or do I take a broadcasting job in baseball thanks to the aforementioned nepotism, and I took the job. So I left my senior year, but I did do 2 years in the minor leagues where I was not only the broadcaster, I was also the traveling secretary. I was 19. I was handed everybody's meal money, everybody's plane tickets. I was in charge of all that. Then I was learning how to broadcast. I was paid $200 a month, which my dad used to joke. That's when I learned the definition of the word subsidize, because my dad paid for me to be a AAA announcer so that I could afford an apartment in Louisville. And but it was the only way. I think what it proved to my dad and it proved to me was that I just loved it. I couldn't get enough. I didn't care what I was being paid. I didn't ever want a day off. I still don't. I don't like not working. The football season ended. I've got those 7-year-olds. I've told my wife this is a 1-week forum that I've got to be at, so I'm actually staying. I've got a suite here at the hotel. Come on up tonight. We're going to have a great time. Don't tell my wife. But yeah, I did 2 years of minor league baseball, and then I left to come to St. Louis and fill in for my dad in 1991, and did the Cardinals got hired at 21 and was doing them at 22, and then Fox dropped out of the sky in 1994, and
Stealing my thunder here.
I'm sorry.
That's the next topic. At age 24, 25, Fox comes in out of nowhere, and boom, here you are, sort of the face of their NFL broadcast. So talk about that transition, going to Fox and all of a sudden being their face of the NFL.
Yeah, it was, I really was. And they hired Madden and Summerall. I remember being at KMOX down the street here, and CBS was out. And Fox was owned by Rupert Murdoch, and had, Married with Children on TV and Joan Rivers. That was it. And was on UHF stations, and it's like, oh, Fox is going to get the NFC. And I remember being disappointed and railing on it on KMOX radio when the report came out. And then, 2 months later, I was in LA auditioning for a job with Fox, going, oh my God, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life. It's just funny the way this business works. And the way I got the audition, one of the presidents of Fox Sports, his name is Ed Gorin, his late wife, she just passed away, was handed a VHS tape of my work by my mommy. So my mom served as my agent, gave my eventual new boss a VHS tape of me doing baseball and horse jumping on ESPN, to Ed Gorin's wife, who then made Ed watch it, which then got me an audition, which then made me fly out to LA and sit in a studio and do a game off a TV monitor for a sport I had never covered. And I had spent the previous week broadcasting games with my dad not broadcasting, but just doing it, faking it with my dad in his living room during spring training. I went out there, it went well. I came out of the room, and a guy who I'd never seen before and never saw since after came out of the woodwork. It's like, hey, do you have an agent? And I said no, and the guy said, well, you should get one because we're going to hire you. So I left there knowing that I had a job with Fox, and we were like it was me and Tim Green. We were like the 3 or 4 team behind Madden, Summerall, and Stockton and Millen. And then they get baseball in '96, and that meant the World Series and the All-Star game and all that, and that's really what I did. So, I just kept one thing after another, just kept unfolding in front of me, and I just kept going.
So at age 27, you started doing the World Series, and you're kind of balancing football and baseball. That's probably back during the Yankees runs, right? So
yeah.
Talk about doing the World Series at age 27.
Yeah, I was scared to death. I was at Yankee Stadium. I was trying to downplay it. It was, for those Yankee fans, any Yankee fans in here? Yeah. Any Yankee fans in here that think I hate the Yankees? Go ahead. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Every one of you does. Okay, and let's do this experiment. Any Red Sox fans in here? Yeah. Any Red Sox fans in here think I hate the Red Sox? Oh, good.
Good.
I finally found my people. It's taken this long. That's just kind of the nature of the beast when you do national games and you get excited for the other team. Everybody thinks you're against their team. That's for another seminar with my therapist. But anyway, it coincided with Jeter's rookie year, and Posada was sharing catching duties with Girardi and Pettit and Mariano Rivera and Bernie Williams and all those guys. And then we're there, and I remember before game 1, I'm sitting there trying to downplay it and try to take my time intentionally to not let everything get out of control. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take my time putting the lineups in. I'm going to take my time doing the numbers and the averages and what they had hit during the postseason and all that other stuff. And then they're like, okay, we got 30 minutes till game time. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not ready now. And I kicked the can too far, and I wasn't prepared. And then it started to rain. And I thought, oh my God, this is God taking care of me. And we were in a rain delay. Then they delayed the game. Then they postponed the game. So the next night I was able to show up with all my stuff done. And I was able to kind of ease into my first World Series game. And you're right, I did 24 of them total. World Series, I don't know how many games over the years. But there's nothing like postseason baseball. People always ask me, you do the World Series, you do the Super Bowl, did the U.S. Opens, all that stuff. There is nothing like postseason baseball. There's nothing like Game 7 of a World Series with all that's on the line. And it's funny because you actually do less as a broadcaster. The game, the intensity, the emotion just carries it, and you can sit back and just kind of enjoy it a little bit. If you've got Pedro Martinez on the mound for the Red Sox against the Yankees and Jeter, what am I going to say that's any better than Yankee Stadium just being crazy and going nuts? You can just kind of highlight the action and get through it. So with Fox getting baseball in the mid-'90s and the Yankees and Red Sox rivalry reheating, it was the best time that we could have been in the game. And I think of those games all the time. They're the highlights of my career.
Speaking of letting a big moment breathe, talk about the last few days with Kenny Albert and the United States winning the Olympics. I mean, he is so good.
He's so good. I don't know how he does it. He does so many different events. Tirico, amazing. I don't know how he does it. Does so many different events. As we all know, did the Super Bowl and then flew over and was hosting the Olympics. I think he was hosting parts of it from the field right after the Super Bowl. I've talked to Mike. I'm like, it's okay to say no, Mike, just once in a while. But he's incredible. And Kenny, the names, the numbers, and then they change a little bit. For the Olympics, because you've got this grouping of NHL players, in his case, for the hockey. And, you know that Connor McDavid is 97, but, some numbers change, and you get used to calling. You see that number flying down the ice, and my dumb brain, I equate that number with a player's name, with a player's style, and that's how you do play-by-play, especially for fast-moving sports like hockey or basketball, football to a certain degree. But I'm blown away with how they handle that. I think Eddie Olczyk is great in the booth, Boucher down between the benches. I thought the presentation was as good as the game, which says a lot, because the game is something that I think we'll all remember. I'm old enough to remember 1980. A lot of people in this room are not old enough to remember 1980. Joe Sample is old enough to remember 1980. Mike Caruso is old enough to remember 1980. But there's a whole new generation of fans who are going to think of that overtime game, and that's going to be either for a fan or for a young player or for an announcer. It's going to be kind of a jumping off point to think that's what I want to do, because it was just remarkable.
So at some point, I don't know the year, you decided to dabble into some talk shows.
Yes.
So why and how did that go for you?
Well, the Artie Lang show starring Joe Buck on HBO wasn't too great. Maybe enough time has passed where I don't have to apologize for that anymore. Artie, who wrote in his book that he snorted Vicodin and drank Jack Daniels before he came out onto the stage, was exactly what I wanted Artie Lang to be. I said, it's HBO, it's at night, cut it loose. Give me, I don't know if I can say the SH word, but give me crap and just who cares? And it devolved into a pretty. Go ahead and YouTube it. It's awesome if you want to see a host sweating through his suit. But that didn't last long. I think the best thing I did, which I no longer do, so it's not a promo for it, but it was a show on DirecTV called Undeniable, where we had, the best of the best. Wayne Gretzky, Derek Jeter, Troy Aikman, Jerry Jones, Michael Phelps, heroes, sports icons, people who have won titles and championships and whatever, talking about being a human. And I think that was the value. I think it was a good reminder, even to me, to remember that I don't care if you're Gretzky or McDavid or Jeter or whoever. Everybody's had moments in their life where they've struggled, thought they weren't good enough, felt like they let people down. I think, not to go on and on, but Michael Phelps sat on the stage, and I'd known Michael before he came out there, and he said, "Get ready, because I'm gonna open it up tonight. I'm gonna be as raw as I can be." And we put the picture of him up on the screen on the Sports Illustrated cover, where he had, 18, however many medals were around his neck, gold, maybe one silver in there, whatever it was. And you can probably remember the cover. And I said, "What do you think of when you see that picture?" And he said, "I think of a guy with bad teeth, with an awkward smile, who was told at a young age that he was only born to keep his parents together, and they got divorced, and I didn't get that done." And I said, wow, because all anybody else thinks of is, "Oh my God, can you believe how great that man is for winning all those gold medals?" He said, it doesn't matter. And then he said, "I went into rehab when that old bong picture came out, and then drinking, whatever he went to rehab for. And I went in there, and I had to hand in my phone, and I had to go through all this therapy, and I got in there, and I didn't want to be there. It was against my will. And I sat in there, and I was in the cafeteria, and I was shredded and just worn down to the bones. And I looked up, and there was the American flag. And I couldn't believe how many times I heard the national anthem and saw that flag raised while I won a gold medal. And now here I am in a rehab facility without my phone, without my pride, and I look up, and there's that flag again. And it was powerful, and I think that stuff is really important to, hear, because I think we all think of sports. We're all in here for, Sports Business Journal, and there's a business of this world we live in, but these are also people, and I think those reminders for somebody like me or somebody like anybody in this room that kind of traffics in sports, it's a good reminder that these are human beings. And like Tony La Russa said, maybe 1,041 times to me, these are men, not machines. And I used to let that go in one ear and out the other, but it's true.
Yeah. So after almost 30 years, you make the decision, maybe it was in 2022-ish, to leave Fox and go to ESPN, which is where your wife also works. Talk about that decision.
Money. No,
that helps.
That's an easy joke. Yeah, it was just time. You know, I mentioned the 7-year-old twins, and I used to hear my dad joke when he would say, you know, I'm working so much, I'm traveling in the airport. The other day, I passed myself in Terminal C. And I didn't really get it. And I was like, because in the month of October, it got a little nuts. And I get why some people are like, Jesus, this guy again. You know, it's like World Series one night on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I'm flying to do a Thursday football game on Fox, and I'm back for Friday, Saturday, Sunday for a Major League Baseball postseason series. And, you know, then you do it all again the next week. And then eventually, you know, it just becomes too much. And I was lucky that ESPN, you know, all this stuff happened at the same time. Again, it was like Fox dropping out of the sky and all that stuff, just kind of lining up. And so ESPN came calling. Troy had left. I had 1 year left on my contract. And the money was a joke. It was the right place to go for the right reason. It's Monday Night Football. There's no property that for somebody who's 56 that is any bigger than Monday Night Football. I still get chills, as corny as it is, when the theme song hits and it's the Chris Stapleton thing is great and in the air tonight, but when it goes dun 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 and then my voice gets to follow that. I was a kid in a broadcast booth with my dad on the radio side, and I thought my dad hung the moon. And my dad was doing Monday Night Football radio. And I'd go with him, and I'd get that master's class. But then I'd look 3 booths down, and there's the yellow sport coats, and there's Howard Cosell, and there's Don Meredith, and there's Frank Gifford, and there's the bright lights, and feeling like these guys are on stage, and they're calling a football game. That left the biggest impression on me as a boy that wanted to be his dad. And then I get the chance to go to Monday Night Football. I get the chance to go there with Troy. I get the chance to do, and it was like, and to whittle my responsibilities down to just football, and to work with my wife, which is one of the great gifts. You know, I get to travel with her. She does the Monday Night Countdown, the pregame show, and I couldn't be more proud of the interviews she does. And then I do the game, and then we go home, and we raise our kids, and then I get to do it again. So it just couldn't be better. I couldn't be happier. And there's just, at this stage of my life, Fox was great. It was the best. It was a gift that I didn't see coming. And then this is the second version of that.
Yeah, and your daughters are older, probably late 20s, early 30s, and now you sort of have this second lap, if you will, with these young boys. And the fact that you're working, I know you probably go in town a day early, but this is allowing you to really sort of be present. And you're a hockey dad, you're now going to rinks, but just talk about what this second lap is like for you and really being able to be present. It's
been great. You know, I think a lot of people that I know that have been remarried or had kids a second time around, they go, I get to do it right this time. I'd like to think that if my daughters were here, they would tell you that I'm their best friend. I think they would. So I'm proud of all that, and I really made time for them. And when it felt like I'd been gone too long, I just bring them with me. So they grew up around this stuff. But for these boys now, and as you said, I'm a hockey dad, and I'm lacing up these skates. I've got a bad back. My hands hurt. I've got arthritis. I'm pulling these damn skates on, tying them as tight as I can. My kid's out there wobbling around because his dad sucks at tying skates. But it's been great, and now I can bring them. So I did a baseball game 2 years ago here in St. Louis. I did Yankee Stadium opening day last year. I'm doing one at Dodger Stadium this year, and I'm going to bring them so that they're rounded. I've got one son that is all baseball, and then one son that's all other sports and singing and dancing. So to be able to present them that opportunity again that I got as a kid, I don't take that stuff for granted. So I'm bringing them around. They're involved. They know what I do. And I try to be. I was in carpool line today. I dropped them off.
That's
at
why
8
you were late.
o'clock. I got this thing from the teachers that just pisses me off so much. I'm like, there's little kids walking around. I don't want to pull up as fast as you want. I know you want to get out of here, but I don't want to do that. But I pulled up, and they got out of the car, and I raced down here to have coffee with you and Mike, and so now here we are. But I try to be as involved as I can.
Okay, some quick hitters before we get to Q&A. Your favorite MLB ballpark to call a game and your favorite NFL stadium to call a game.
Old Yankee Stadium was the best because of the history. Now there's Wrigley and Fenway, but Old Yankee Stadium for where the booth was and for those big moments. I remember Joe Girardi. I was talking to him, and he said, last year in the postseason, this place finally, the new Yankee Stadium, finally got christened because they showed a shot of the upper deck, and there was like beer flying through the air. And when you're in that booth at Old Yankee Stadium, and Brocious hits a home run to win a World Series game in 2001, and the booth just starts bouncing, and it's equal parts fear and excitement, like, is this thing coming down, or is it going to hold up? But it just was the cathedral. It was my favorite. Just so many great moments in that stadium, in Fenway, in Wrigley, but Old Yankee Stadium for our purposes as announcers and a television crew, that was the best. And football, they're all great now. Lambeau with the history is amazing. With bleachers, they continue to add to it. Every time we show up every year, it's like, oh, there's a new deck up there on the top. It's remarkable. But every stadium in the NFL is kind of turned over, and there really isn't one that you go, I don't really want to do a game there. If this booth has a bathroom, I'm good. Cleveland, I don't think has. Cincinnati doesn't. It's something about Ohio. They want to make announcers run. Yeah, 2029. Oh, yeah, we got a new one coming in Cleveland, right? Can you make sure that there's a bathroom in the back? Tell Haslam. I'll help pay Deshaun Watson's contract if they can put a bathroom in the back of the booth. It's awful. My dad told me when I was a kid, don't ever run to a microphone. And I think of him every time because I've got to run, walk, and I've got to get back in 2 minutes or there's going to be dead air because Troy's like, I'm not bringing this out of commercial. I don't care if you're here or not. There's going to be dead air until you show up and put your headset on. I'm not calling a kickoff. I'm not reading a promo. I'm not doing anything. So I run, walk back, and I put it on, then I talk in between breaths, to whatever the hell's going on the field.
Yeah. I have a personal favorite MLB call ever. It was shown earlier today in the video. I'm going to wait to say it because I want to see what your favorite MLB call is.
I mean, it's like my mom seeing a movie or a show on Broadway. I saw the best show. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. You walk out of every booth, I do, and I'm like, oh my God. 2001 with 9/11 having happened and this crazy 7-game World Series with the Yankees and the Diamondbacks and a walk-off win, and that's what you're always rooting for. I was like, you hate my team. It's like, no, just give me a walk-off win and I'm good. Then I can try to win an Emmy, and everybody's happy. You get your ring, I get the Emmy because I just barely talked over your crowd going nuts. But you're alluding to, because I know it's your favorite, because it's St. Louis, it's David Freese hitting Game 6, the 11th inning home run to force Game 7, when I parroted my dad's "We'll see you tomorrow night" call. So my greatest call is actually my dad's greatest call that I just regurgitated into a microphone.
And that was Kirby Puckett, right?
That was Kirby Puckett in '91 forcing a Game 7 against the Braves. And, us gripping, hoping my dad, who had cataracts and was an older broadcaster at that time, with that stupid plexiglass that was up above the wall at the Metrodome, would actually get the call right with the Homer hankies, which were white. The baseball is white. The glass is clear. It's like, oh my God, everything is set up for a bad home run call here. But he nailed it. And so when the spotlight was on me, I just retreated into my dad's shadow.
Yeah, well, I was at that game. Obviously didn't hear your call because I was there, but it's infamous now, and it's awesome.
And I made mention of the Emmys before, and I think Sports Business Journal covers those things. I won an Emmy that year, and I won an Emmy because I did my dad's call. I won an Emmy at the end of a year where I should have been fired. I was so bad that year. That was a year I was dealing with a paralyzed vocal cord. I had hair transplant surgery.
How'd that work out?
It was grabbing. I have hair, so that's good. But they put a tube down my throat. It damaged the nerve, and I came out sounding like this for 9 months. And before my voice started getting better about month 8, and by Game 6, and we'll see you tomorrow night, it was pretty good. But that whole year, I feared that I was going to be fired, and then I win an Emmy based on one call. So that's the story of the Emmys.
Got it. How do you feel about the Manning cast opposite to your broadcast on Monday night?
Well, I say this because I don't know Eli that well. I covered 1 million of his games, but I don't know Eli that well. I've become really good friends with Peyton, which really makes me cool. He's in every commercial. I'm just hoping to borrow money from him someday. He's a remarkable human being and a great guy. It's an odd thing to know that opposite you on the same network, there's another broadcast covering the same game. But I think a rising tide lifts all ships, and I know that ESPN kind of pools that rating together, so great. I mean, if there are people that, because the game isn't competitive, flip over to ESPN2 or the Manning cast because they're talking to David Letterman or whoever, and they stay around and that raises the overall rating, great. I couldn't care less. I think it's good. And we're doing the Super Bowl this year coming up. I can't imagine how many broadcasts there are going to be. There's going to be Troy and me. There's going to be Peyton and Eli. I'm sure McAfee will get in on the action, and on and on and on. But if they add all that up and at the end of the day it's a great rating, then everybody's happy, then awesome.
So growing up here, I know you're a big Blues fan. You came to some of the Stanley Cup games with us. Your dad actually called some early Blues games. Talk about the 2019 run and what that meant to you.
I was like a little kid because, my dad was the first voice of the Blues. He knew nothing about hockey. And after the fact, he used to joke that he was just going to pick one guy. It was on radio, so nobody could see it. And he was just going to pick one guy every night. He's like, that guy's going to have the game of his life tonight. He's going to be in the corner digging the puck out. He's going to be taking it across the blue line. Whatever needs to happen, I'm just going to go back to Stisser. Stisser in the corner, passes to Stisser in front of the net. Back to Stisser at the point, shoots, scores, goal Stisser.
Wow.
It was a different time, but he loved hockey. So as a kid, I was indoctrinated into being a Blues fan. And when they won it in 2019, I was out at Pebble Beach getting ready to do the U.S. Open. And I'm sure whoever was next to me in the hotel thought a murder was happening in my room because I was screaming like a child. That game, it was any Bruins fans in here? Yeah, we beat your ass that year. When Bennington stood on his head in that first period, and then they started pulling away, it was surreal. It was like Indiana beating Miami in the national championship game. It's just nice to have a rooting interest. I have to play Switzerland all the time in baseball and football and for a while in golf, although, nobody really accuses you of anything there. But when I can actually be a fan and sit in seats and high-five strangers and, that's when I get it. And that's the fun of it all.
I have a story about your dad that I don't know if I've ever told you. So 1999, I'm working for the Rams. We have this incredible season. We're 13-3. NFC title game against the Buccaneers. We had this big party suite, and a lot of dignitaries came out of the woodwork. So in our suite, which was a 50-person suite, is Jack Buck, Stan Musial, and Craig Ironhead Hayward. Don't know where Craig comes into the game, but Craig was there. And for those of you that don't know, we set an NFL record that year for most points with the greatest show on turf. And Ricky Prohl was our third down, first down. Like he would always get to the sticks. Ricky Prohl did not score a touchdown that whole year. It's late in the game. We're losing 6-5. Yes, 6-5. It's a crazy game. Your dad had a rolled up program. I'm not kidding. I get goosebumps. He had a rolled up program. There's maybe 4 minutes left in this game. We're on about the 35-yard line. We're driving. And your dad literally turns to us and says, they got to look at Ricky. They got to look at Ricky. 2 plays later, over the top to Ricky in the corner of the end zone to score. Dude, your dad said they got to look at Ricky. I don't know if I ever told you that.
No, and you know why he had the program rolled up in his hand and why he was hanging on every play is because he wasn't a Rams fan. He was a St. Louis fan, and he wanted that for this city. So I think there's a difference there. You know, we didn't grow up as Rams fans. I grew up as a St. Louis football Cardinal fan, and oddly enough, a Houston Oiler fan for some weird reason, which I've never identified. But we all grew up as Cardinal fans here. And then they leave, and then the Rams come. And then they put that together, and you were there, you know, every step of the way watching that thing and selling. And that was the hardest ticket I've ever had to try to get in my hometown, of getting into that champ game or any playoff game, or for a while it was so good. I mean, even a regular season game you couldn't get into. So it was a special time. And then, you know, it kind of got worn down, and now they're in L.A., and we've got an empty dome where they had a volleyball tournament last week.
Lots of them.
Lots of volleyball courts. Yeah.
Lori, Ron, do we have time for some questions? I don't know how we're doing on. Oh. I guess I need to scoot up for that. Oh, okay. Well, before we go to the questions, there's one other thing.
9 minutes and 8 seconds left, and then your hostage situation is over.
Ron, can you come talk for 9 minutes? So I want to tell, so Joe, growing up here, big.
Why are you going to let them ask questions?
No, I got one. I didn't know if we were tight. There's one more thing I want to say about you. So Joe runs a great golf tournament in town for St. Louis Children's Hospital. And for those of you that don't know, we are very blessed to have a fantastic children's hospital in St. Louis. And actually last night, I was kind of going back and forth. The Blues had our large charity event. It was a casino night with all of our players, and we raised a ton of money for Children's Hospital. Zimmerman's in here, Steve Chapman's here, Randy Gersh. So we did a great event last night. But Joe, for a number of years, has raised over $5 million for St. Louis Children's Hospital with his golf tournament.
I mean, I think it's like 15 million, but if you want to say 5.
No, it was off your bio, so you may want to talk to your agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. No, it's the reason why I did it used to be Hale Irwin's golf tournament. Hale lived here and I think still does part of the year, but he used to do it for Children's Hospital. And I was there as a young dad, and my oldest daughter, who is now 30, or about to be, was 3, and she was being checked for cystic fibrosis. And my dad had, ironically enough, raised a bunch of money for CF and knew a lot about the disease. And I remember telling my dad, hey, tomorrow, Natalie, we're going to Children's Hospital, and Natalie's getting checked for CF, which they do a sweat test. If anybody's been through that with a child or themselves, where they put a copper plate on your leg and they make these kids run around, and then they test the sweat to see if cystic fibrosis is in their system or DNA or whatever it is. And my dad just stopped me mid-sentence. He's like, she doesn't have CF. And I said, okay, Dr. Buck, but they're going to check her for it, and we're nervous about it. He said, she doesn't have CF. Don't worry about it, kid. Don't holler till you're hurt. That was his big phrase. Don't holler till you're hurt. Don't worry about stuff that hasn't happened yet. And he said, what time are they doing that? And I said, 11:30. my wife and I were sitting in the lobby with Natalie, and 11:25 comes along, and here comes my dad, breezing in and sat with us the entire day. And I sat in that hospital watching nurses, watching doctors, watching patients, watching other parents. And I just said to my wife then, if I ever get a chance to raise money for this place, that's what we're going to do. Yeah. And so it just happened the next year. Hale tapped out, and they asked me, and I've been going for this. I think this will be our 25th year.
Yeah. Well, let's update the bio there.
Okay, yeah, I will.
So maybe it's 15.
I will. I don't know. It's It's more than 5.
Let's do some Q&A. I've talked enough, so I don't know. I think, Lori, there's a microphone that people are going to pass around.
5:50. You got 5 minutes and 50 seconds.
It's really hard to see, so I'm going to ask the people with the mics to sort of figure out who's up. Uh-oh, hot mic.
Oh, my.
Hello, Clara
Look at that
Rice
thing.
from Adirondack Studios.
Shake it. Say, are we going to get out of here on time?
Yeah.
See what the Magic 8 Ball says.
Live in Cincinnati, but my grandfather worked for the Cardinals, so it's complicated. But I wanted to ask you, throughout your career, there have been incredible advances in technology and how we receive information. So there's now social media, there's now podcasting, and kind of everyone fancies themselves an armchair sportscaster. So how have those technologies impacted the course of your career, or have they at all?
It's a great question. I remember at Fox, I don't know, whenever Twitter came along, we had Mark Cuban show up at our seminar and was talking about how every time we show up on screen, it should be, my Twitter thing is @Buck. If you'd like to tweet at me after this appearance, I will not read it. And he's like, this is going to change the world. And I think it has its place. But for what I do, it becomes kind of an echo chamber of, you suck, you say, good thing you had a famous dad, blah, 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 you hate my team, all that. Every once in a while, there'll be something in there that's valuable for me. I think it's good for news. I use it for, Schefter, who tweets 11 times a minute. There's stuff there that's valuable for me. I think it's a valuable information gathering spot for me. But as you said, and I think you said it right, I think everybody kind of fancies themselves a sports announcer to some degree, and it becomes just kind of its own thing online and how they would do it. And it's really not changed one thing I do. I can honestly say that. When I was more involved in it, I remember doing a Phillies game, maybe a Phillies-Mets game, it was a nighttime game, I remember that. And I had that open. And I started almost answering to real-time criticism. It was changing the way I was doing things. And it was not productive. It was like, why am I? People are going to like it, hate it, not care. Most people don't care. But they're going to like it or hate it no matter what I do. So I might as well do this the way I want to. And until it's my boss tweeting at me that you suck or whatever, it's really not going to affect my life. So it's there. I'm aware of it, but it doesn't factor into my mind the way it used to. At least Twitter. And I've got girls who are on Instagram all day, every day. So if I keep up with their lives in New York through Instagram and friends, but I don't really use social media that much, to be honest with you. Yes. You, right in the front.
Hey, you got to wait for the hot mic.
Yeah. I can repeat your question. Don't make this kid pull a hamstring coming up to you.
He's running like you.
I know.
Hi, Joe. Mark Francis from the University of Oregon.
How I knew that?
I don't know how you knew.
Wearing a big Oregon shirt. Yeah.
Did Phil Knight pay for your flight here?
No, Uncle Phil didn't pay.
Sorry we beat you guys twice.
Yeah, I was there. But I'm from Fredericton, New Brunswick, and you made a call on a kid that I grew up with, Matt Stairs.
Oh my God, yeah.
At Dodger Stadium in 2008. Talk about that call.
It's the one thing Philly fans like me for. They don't like anything, but they like me for. They certainly don't like me, but the the one call is Matt Stairs at Dodger Stadium hit a ball. As an announcer, you want the no-doubter.
Yeah.
That's when you line up the words in your mind and you're like, this call's going to be the one they play for the rest of the time. Matt Stairs hit this ball so hard into the right field pavilion, maybe over it, at Dodger Stadium. It was just like an explosion. And I said, deep into the night, or Matt Stairs, that's one in the right, deep into the night. And so I get that from Philly fans. And Stairs was kind of this thick, like fire hydrant looking player with arms, and just hit the that ball was not round anymore.
No. Also had just to follow up, I grew up with Jake Allen's dad as well.
Yeah.
So Matt and I and Kurt is his name.
That's, you know, that I like when people give you those stories, and again, it's like what I said with Undeniable. It just reminds, these are people from places, and so you're watching that game, you're like, there's our guy, Matt Stairs, he just hit a, that's the fun of it, is when you kind of break the, is it the fourth wall, whatever, the third wall, the ninth wall, and you get in there, and it's like, oh my God, there's a human being that just had that moment. That's why I think we all watched Jack Hughes after that overtime game-winning goal, and I know you're from Canada, so you're not happy about that either. You're like 0 for 3 with, well,
You
1
had
for 4
broken
with
clocks right twice a day. Like, come on.
Sorry. But, you know, it's like, oh my God, this kid lost his teeth, gets the game-winning goal, and then afterward said all the right things. You know, he said everything that we all wanted to hear in that moment. It was just a perfect hour for Jack Hughes. I don't know him. I wish we had him. Wish we had his brother.
Wish we had Matthew.
Wish we had
Brady.
Matthew Kachuk and Brady Kachuk.
We'll get there.
Yeah, on and on and on. But yeah, that's the cool, fun stuff of what I get to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Ron, do we have time for one more, or are we finished?
One more.
Is this the Gong Show?
Yeah.
Yeah, right here.
How's it going? My name's Zach Samises. I'm a sales leader with the New York Rangers and New York Knicks. As I'm entrusted to hopefully develop future leaders within the sports industry, what are some tips or tricks that you would provide when it comes to captivating an audience confidently and authentically when it comes to either television or even like right now?
I think you have to prepare well enough, and this isn't you plus hard work equals success BS. I really believe this. You have to prepare to the point where you're tired of the subject matter and then throw it away and go up there and be confident that you're going to react in real time. The worst calls I've made in my life, the worst moments I've had in speaking in front of people is when I've tried too hard. I think, you know, for those big moments, they come off as corny. You got to be true to the setting, whether that's making a call for a game-winning home run or a U.S. Open winning putt or a game-ending touchdown like Stephon Diggs in Minnesota. And I don't know that that's going to happen, and I sure as hell can't plan out. I learned that lesson when Mark McGwire was on his home run chase here. And everybody, he lit up baseball. And is he going to break Roger Maris's record and all that? I went to bed, everybody kept asking me, what are you going to say if he hits the home run and you're on the mic? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to say at any time. They're like, well, what are you going to say? I'm like, I don't know. And then eventually you go to bed and you're like, what the hell am I going to say? And then you go to bed and you go, okay, that's okay. And then you wake up and you think about it. Then you write it down. Then you go to the game on, I think, September 18th. 1998, whatever day that was, and I've got this corny sentence written in my scorebook. Fox threw all their primetime programming away, and they covered a Cardinals-Cubs game with the chance that Mark McGwire would break the home run record, and he did. And it was the shortest home run. It was barely fair. It was a hooking line drive. It was not the Matt Stairs home run. It was a hooking line drive into the corner. And my eyes are peeled and my concentration is at a level that I probably never have reached before or since. And I watched that and I never got my eyes down to the corny line that I'd written that morning. And thank God, because I'm glad I reacted in the moment. You have to be prepared, you have to be loud, you have to be confident, You have to, and sometimes you have to fool yourself into thinking it. And if you have to grab a podium and hang on to it so you don't show people that you're shaking, do that. But be loud and be confident even when you're not. But that confidence comes from preparation. And I sit at home or in my hotel room getting ready for an NFL game, and I think, Tirico didn't just shut his thing down. He's still working. He's still working on names and numbers and working on history of the franchise and working on a tidbit about the stadium. Jim Nantz didn't just turn his stuff off. I have to compete against everybody in my business. And when I let those people that I'm competing against pass me by, it's time to go. So I have to prepare the best I can, and then if a stiff breeze comes up and knocks all my preparation out of the booth, I should be just as good. It'd be different, but it'd be good. I'd be ready. And I think no matter what you do, there is no substitute for preparing.
And I want to close that loop because as part of the Forum family here, we've heard a lot about this week from Ron and others. You're here to meet people. You're here to grow your network. Put yourself in traffic. Follow up with people. Don't just send a LinkedIn and go dark. This is a business where you have to connect with people. I've loved doing it for 30 years. It's why I've been part of Ron's team. You're all here for a reason, to learn and grow and listen. And as Howie said yesterday, Howie was a ticket seller, selling minor league baseball, and now Howie's co-head of CAA. We all started somewhere. I tell my staff, did you start on varsity as a freshman? No, you didn't. It takes time to grow and learn. So make the most of it this week. Follow up with people, learn and grow. And we're so thankful for Ron and Abe and Lori and their whole team for putting this on. So, Joe, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of On Stage. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share with colleagues or anyone interested in sports media and storytelling. Here's a thought to take with you. What makes a voice credible in high-pressure moments? And how do you build that trust over time? I'd love to hear your perspective. Send me a note at tbloom@sportsbusinessjournal.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another conversation from the stage featuring leaders shaping the future of sports business. Until next time, stay tuned and stay ahead. This is On Stage.